And happy December 6th, and welcome to Master MicroStrategy, where you and I are working on mastering the genius that is Michael Saylor 7 days a week. This is the only daily show bringing you this information. I truly hope you enjoy. And man, what a 24 hours. I mean, waking up to Bitcoin well over 100,000, topping out at over 104,000, going all the way down to 92,000 for a hot minute, even lower than that by some accounts, flushing out the shorts, then flushing out the longs. I mean, this is what Bitcoin does. It flushes out the degenerates, as a lot of people call them, and then it moves higher and higher and higher with retracements and flushes all along the way. This is part of the ride that you and I signed up for. And remember, as Michael Saylor, our genius, has shared, volatility is a feature. It's not a bug. Volatility is a feature with MicroStrategy. Volatility is a feature with Bitcoin. It is a feature, not a bug. And I titled today's episode what I did for the reason that I want everybody to remember that in 1 month, MicroStrategy is up 49.88% in just 30 days. Bitcoin's up a little bit over 30%. So again, if MicroStrategy was going off of what it claims is a 1.5-ish X leverage on Bitcoin, guess what? We're right there. In fact, 1.5x leverage would be at 47%. So we're actually even ahead of the game there. We're more than 1.5x, just a little bit more than 1.5x, but we're 1.5x ish, right around where Bitcoin is, on that 30-ish% return over a month, where MicroStrategy is 49.88%. And again, MicroStrategy would only be at 47% if it was at 1.5x leverage. But please remember, this is not financial advice. Please consult a financial advisor before making any decisions when it comes to your finances and all that jazz. So we have a lot to talk about today. A lot of good things are happening. I just love people that understand this process, that understand Michael Saylor's genius, that understand MicroStrategy's genius, and understand that Bitcoin is perfect money. And as it continues to grind up over the months and years to come, with, of course, retracements, it will continue to grind up on the MicroStrategy side as well, with all of the major catalysts and exciting things that are coming here in 2025. So let's go ahead with the MSTR tracker. We got the stock price at $386. The S&P 500 ranking is 109 out of 500. So it was down 6 places, but it's hovering right around that 100 mark, give or take, waiting for a breakout, of course. Bitcoin is right around 98,000 at the time of this recording. Still 402,100 Bitcoin, hoping for an increase announcement sometime next week. We'll see. $16 billion in profit for a 68% return percentage for MicroStrategy. Very happy, very healthy is this company, and it's waiting for some upcoming catalysts. What are those catalysts? Well, we've implemented now the MSTR catalyst tracker into our daily show. And as you can see, 4 days until Microsoft's shareholder vote on Bitcoin. That's going to be very fun to see. And again, we're not necessarily expecting that to pass, but the fact that it's going before the shareholders and the fact that they're going to get to have their voices heard is sending ripples across every company across the United States and the world. 7 days until the inclusion announcement. That's going to be a fun announcement. So looking forward to that. The Fed meeting is in 12 days. QQQ inclusion is going to be in 14 days. A lot of good things coming up, my friends, in 2024, not to mention 2025. I wanted to share this article from Yahoo Finance. It says MicroStrategy stock sinks 4.5% as Bitcoin hits $100,000 milestone. Of course, this is misleading for a lot of reasons, and I kind of want to address this right now because I know a lot of people that own MicroStrategy, that follow MicroStrategy, are like, wait a second, Bitcoin was up to like $103,000, $104,000. Bitcoin was, and then MicroStrategy seemed to be trading down, and it was actually trading down during the time, even though Bitcoin ended up really cratering as the day went on, and it seemed like MicroStrategy kind of held firm at that point when Bitcoin really started trading down. The reality is this: Michael Saylor is taking advantage. This is my theory. This is other people's theories, by the way, that I follow. But what we theorize is Michael Saylor, because he's done this in the past, is hitting the ATM. He is hitting the at the market. He is selling shares of MicroStrategy, and then he's going to take the money that he makes from that, and he's going to buy more Bitcoin, which is going to give you, the shareholder, me, the shareholder, more Bitcoin our Bitcoin yield's going to increase. This is an accretive action. This is accretion. So when he sells these shares at the market, what is happening? He is using that money to buy Bitcoin, and then our Bitcoin per share is going up, as you saw back in the MSTR tracker. Let's actually go back there for a second right now. Our Bitcoin value per basic share, $168. I mean, just like a week ago, it was like $135 per share. This has gone up a massive amount, and this is exciting stuff. Let's flip back to the article. So when he's doing this, it's increasing our Bitcoin per share as shareholders, which we love because it's accretive. And then what is also happening? He's buying more Bitcoin, which of course, over time is going to increase the price of Bitcoin, which increases the value of MicroStrategy, which increases the profit of MicroStrategy, and all these catalysts that are coming, the fair market accounting, all these different things, the FASB, which is the fair market, accounting method that's going to be implemented. So exciting for these catalysts that are coming in 2025 for this company. So, here you have this article that's just saying, hey, what's going on? Essentially, MicroStrategy sunk 4.5% while Bitcoin soared. Well, that wasn't the case. Bitcoin did go up and then it came back down, and MicroStrategy did trend a little bit down as well and closed a little bit down. So that is the reality. This article is misleading for all those reasons right there. So one thing that I really kind of want to continue to dive into here is just the media not portraying MicroStrategy, in my opinion, correctly. So listen, the media is going to bring attention to people that don't even know that MicroStrategy exists. Over time, that's a good thing. More people knowing about MicroStrategy is going to be good for us, because MicroStrategy is on its way to becoming a multi-trillion-dollar company. I believe, a lot of people believe this. I think you probably believe this as well. That's why you're watching. Hopefully, if you don't, I can get you there. Again, this is my opinion, my thoughts, my ideas, but this is just an example of, how I wanted to kind of explain, maybe why some days MicroStrategy is not going to be reacting exactly to Bitcoin, because Michael Saylor is going to be tapping the ATM. He's going to be selling shares. But then remember, he's using these shares for our benefit, for the shareholders' benefit, in an accretion, giving us accretion into Bitcoin, increasing that Bitcoin yield, which is an absurdly good number this year. His goal is 6 to 10%. He's crushing that number. Love it. So let's move over to this article right here. China's MicroStrategy exits Bitcoin, cashes out before 100,000 milestone. This is an example of just one of these companies that was pretending to be like MicroStrategy, but the first chance they got to cash out at a big profit, they took their money and they ran. They're a small player. They don't get it. They're not going to make it. This article is just about them. I mean, we're going to, have many more times to mention this company. I think they're called Meitu, M-E-I-T-U. This is just kind of the highlights of the article here. We're going to be able to have many times to quote unquote make fun, make fun of this company going forward, because just like we make fun of the German government for having lost billions of dollars for selling their Bitcoin at 55,000, we're going to be able to make fun of this company for selling their Bitcoin at what in the future is going to be a very low dollar amount. So I'm really excited for this company to come back up, because it's just going to be us letting them know, hey, what a big mistake you made, and I hope you realize you're not going to make it. So when you see stuff like this, it's just companies that don't get it, and they never did, and we're flushing them out just like we flush out the longs and we flush out the short leverage traders all day long. This is quite the tweet, by the way, and this is kind of a lot of the things I was sharing with you about why MicroStrategy may not have been going up, in lockstep, or at least 1.5x step with Bitcoin over the past day or two. Why it ended up, being down a little bit for the day, even though Bitcoin did have that big run up and then the big run down again. So Carolina here says, if you're lamenting about Saylor aggressively utilizing the ATM at these levels, keep a few things in mind. And that's exactly what I was just talking about. Like, some people are just like, why is he selling shares? Because it's accretive to us as shareholders, as we talked about. And then he talks, Carolina, however you pronounce it, gives these 3 points, which is very interesting. Feel free to press pause and read them. I found them very interesting. The comments below this tweet as well, which I'll link this tweet in the show notes page. The comments are really interesting too. So I'll just read the last one, the last kind of sum up, which is, that being said, Bitcoin just broke 100,000 and only has blue skies ahead. MicroStrategy owns almost 2% of all Bitcoin that will ever exist. If you're in this space buying Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, you're in a great place to have life-changing opportunity and have a life-changing opportunity in front of you and have a great community to learn from. Don't ever get over leveraged. Don't think short term. Do the work to understand the opportunity at hand, and your life will look very different in 12 months. I truly believe this. A lot of people in the irresponsibly long MicroStrategy community believe this as well. By the way, a great community and Twitter, on X, just search irresponsibly long money sign MSTR. And again, you can just see there's a lot of good comments below and some interesting questions as well. But I do recommend reading these three things right here, which I won't read to you just because we're trying to move along here, but they're very interesting points that she makes, and some that I already shared earlier in my little rants. So, next tweet I want to share is from Jeff Walton, Punter Jeff. He said, another absolute monster of a volume day for MicroStrategy. In the first 2 hours of trading, $10 billion traded. This is an insane statistic for a company that isn't currently included in 4 of the top 5 ETFs on the planet. I mean, this is what you got to realize. It's not even in the top 4 of the 5 ETFs on the planet, which is going to add so much liquidity, so much passive inflows coming in, and outflows, of course, as well, which is just going to increase trading exponentially. And it's already, an insane number. I mean, it's typically a top 3 traded stock of the day. I mean, only behind typically Nvidia and sometimes Google or Apple. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I mean, it's in front of Microsoft for shares traded, which is absolute, and that's actually volume. So I wanted to share that. This one's a really great post by Majestic13, if I'm doing my Roman numerals correctly. He says, there's a huge gamma squeeze coming. Let me quickly explain. The announcement comes for the NASDAQ 100, the QQQ, at the close on Friday, the 13th of December. The market opens on Monday, the 16th of December, which happens to be my birthday. This gives only 4 possibly 5 days for the smaller tracker funds to buy, and only 2 days, the 19th and the 20th, for the big fellows, QQQ and QQQM, to buy to replicate the index. They have to balance finally towards the reconstitution date to replicate. We should see MicroStrategy gamma spike anywhere from $777 to $1,800 plus, in my humble opinion. And then in parentheses, intuitive math. Again, this is in his humble opinion. This is not financial advice. I have no idea if this gamma spike is going to do something like that, but I just wanted to share this because this is how people are thinking about this MicroStrategy and what's happening with these catalysts going forward. Something else I wanted to share was just this really great tweet by the Bitcoin Archive. He says, Michael Saylor, when Bitcoin hits $1 million, I will probably be buying $1 billion a day. This is a quote from Michael Saylor, and you'll see this in an upcoming an upcoming video that I'm sharing as well. But this is the mentality of Michael Saylor, the leader of MicroStrategy. He is going to be buying Bitcoin forever. He will be buying Bitcoin at the top forever. He is committed to that. And I can't ever envision a world where that's not going to happen. Who knows? Nothing's for sure. But man, my thesis is that he is sticking by that thesis because it's done him well for 4 years. He completely believes in Bitcoin being perfect money, as do I, as to the future of Bitcoin, which means the future of MicroStrategy is bullish, in my opinion. So we've talked about a lot. I have a couple of video clips I want to share with you now, and I really hope you enjoy these because, again, it's Michael Saylor and his genius sharing this with you.
So literally what I do is turn it around to you and say, if you don't think it's the most interesting, tell me what asset in the world is more interesting right now to more people, because I don't think you can name one.
Well, I think I think it's interesting because of all of the conversations that it sparked and the way that it's become very political, and it really brings out the emotions of everyone involved, either positive or negative. But the things that you mentioned there about why it's interesting, like, again, a lot of it has to do. I mean, you mentioned the fact that it trades on weekends, which other assets don't, but the idea that it
Okay,
is
Ed, come on. First of all, the number one performing stock in the S&P 500, mine.
yeah,
We're
100,
up 30x.
yeah.
That's 3 times more than Nvidia. That's interesting. How about the number one options market in the S&P 500? Mine. We have the most intense options, like 130% of market cap. The most profitable convertible bond, the number one convertible bonds in the marketplace, MicroStrategies,
Yeah.
right? It's interesting because people are making money off of it.
Right.
102,000 of the coins. I don't know if like you want to do a little dance, Michael, if you've got some champagne behind you, but obviously we've been talking to you for a while now, and you have been a staunch bull on Bitcoin. You put your money where your mouth is in terms of adding it to the balance sheet over there and MicroStrategy. I guess, now that we've gotten there, now what? What's next?
Every day for the past 4 years, I've said, buy Bitcoin, don't sell the Bitcoin. I'm going to be buying more Bitcoin. I'm going to be buying Bitcoin at the top forever. I joked with Dave Portnoy today. He said, I missed it at 10,000. I missed it at 20,000. I missed it at 100,000. I said, Dave, it's still less than $1 million a coin. You're getting a 90% discount from $1 million a coin. I'm sure that I will be buying Bitcoin at $1 million a coin, probably $1 billion a day of Bitcoin at $1 million a coin. And so I think it's a very simple idea. It's just keep buying Bitcoin with your spare capital. It's going to appreciate against the dollar forever.
So, Michael, so if I don't own Bitcoin, though, and I'm listening to this, your advice is buy here or no, wait for a pullback. And then when I do buy, Michael, your advice to folks who are listening about how to do that, what do they buy? Do they dollar cost average into Bitcoin? What's your advice?
I think you should think of Bitcoin as a long-term capital asset. So if you have money you don't need for 4 years, or even better yet, for 10 years, you put it into a portfolio. You might hold scarce desirable real estate. You might hold your favorite artwork. You might hold some portfolio of companies you're going to hold forever. I think a part of that is Bitcoin. So I say dollar cost average into Bitcoin every quarter, sweep some long-term savings into Bitcoin, expect to keep it there for a decade or longer, and don't get too worked up over the volatility in the near term.
Well, and Michael, you kind of alluded to this, that you don't try and time the market here. You're just going to, the strategy through MicroStrategy is to just keep buying consistently, regularly, no matter what the price is.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like Manhattan real estate. The year is 1650. And if you had a chance to buy it in every decade from 1650 to today, wouldn't you just keep buying it? If you didn't have to pay property tax and you could hold it, you would just keep accumulating it forever. There's never a bad time to buy it. There's a Saylor tracker. You can look at it. It just shows we bought at every price point, every quarter, at the highs, at the lows, at the mids. I bought it every week for the past 4 weeks in a size billion or more. I'm going to just keep buying it. And it's not that complicated. I expect that it'll be the most valuable thing in the world 100 years from now. So why wouldn't you just keep accumulating it?
Michael, we've talked a little bit about this before, so I want to just re-up the question before we move on. When you've likened it to Manhattan real estate, you collect rent on it, right? So at some point, do you somehow, monetize the Bitcoin that you hold in some way?
Yeah, well, imagine I gave you the chance to buy 40 city blocks of Manhattan real estate 100 years ago, but there were no buildings on it and there was no rent associated with it. But you knew it was going to be the greatest city in North America and you could buy it and hold it. It's, you would still do it, just like you might buy Alaska in 1867, even though there's no rent on it, because you think that over the next 100 years, someone else will find a way to take advantage of it. With Bitcoin, it's cyber Manhattan. There's 8 billion people that have money. They're not going to live there, but they're going to put their money there because everybody has to park their money somewhere. And so you're just buying one block out of 21 million of all the capital in the world. It'll be the center of the digital economy. You may not know the applications, but there are applications. MicroStrategy makes a lot of money by holding that digital property. We're generating massive amounts of shareholder value from that. So you don't have to understand how we do it. You just need to hold your Bitcoin and let us drive the price up.
And Michael, obviously the move since the election has been powerful. Trump is moving back into the White House. He clearly positioned himself, as an ally of Bitcoin, an ally of crypto. What would you like to see, Michael, his priorities be now, his policy priorities?
Well, I mean, I think low regulation, low tax, pro innovation, policies, especially specifically with regard to digital assets. If we have a digital assets framework that supports digital commodities, digital securities, digital tokens, digital ABTs, digital currencies, digital NFTs, so that people can innovate in the United States of America and spread those assets everywhere in the world, I think that'll be good for the world and good for the United States.
Michael, I'm curious because we've talked to some of your peers in the crypto industry who have talked about maybe some of the friction at times that they have felt when they've been trying to buy crypto assets under the existing regime, under Gary Gensler at the SEC, for example. You guys have obviously accumulated an awful lot of Bitcoin at MicroStrategy. Has there ever been that kind of friction? Have you seen those regulatory obstacles to what you've been doing?
Well, I think Bitcoin is the one digital asset that has the most regulatory clarity in the world because there's general and universal consensus that it's a digital commodity. The friction on Bitcoin has been slow approval of the ETFs, the inability to do cash create and redemption, the slow approval of the options market on the ETFs, and resistance to banks custodying and handling Bitcoin. So that's held back the asset class. I think that a favorable crypto regime will accelerate the development of Bitcoin. And I think on the digital asset side, right, just the lack of a digital assets framework for digital currencies and digital exchanges and digital tokens has put that industry in limbo. And I think we're looking for those things to be resolved with the incoming administration, and that should accelerate growth for everybody.
And Michael, this week on the show, we did speak to Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. And I asked her, Michael, specifically about this idea of a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Listen to her response here.
I don't know what the purpose of a Bitcoin central reserve is, and I haven't really seen the details of any idea about why you would do that and why that's important. I think it would have an obvious impact of supporting the Bitcoin industry, which in and of itself isn't good or bad. I just would want to know what the reason is.
All right, Michael. So the senator not sure about the reason for it. What do you say to that? What's your response?
Bitcoin is emerging as the world's reserve capital network. If you want to store your capital for the long term and you live in Africa or Russia or China or South America or even the US, your choice is local real estate or local stocks or Bitcoin. Well, people are realizing that Bitcoin is better than real estate. It's better than stocks. There's not a single company or real estate property in Africa that you would rather own for the long term than Bitcoin. So the very simple idea is buy 20 or 25% of the Bitcoin network on behalf of the US government, catalyze the development of that world reserve capital network, and then let all the Chinese and the Russians and the foreigners sell all their other assets and buy Bitcoin, and then the money flows into the United States. If you want to put a great twist on it, dump your gold, sell all the US gold, buy Bitcoin, then the trade is free because you could buy 5 million Bitcoin for the cost of the gold. You will demonetize the entire gold asset class, and our enemies hold gold in their banks. So their assets would go to zero. Our assets would go to $100 trillion, and we would control the world's reserve capital network as well as the world's reserve currency network.
As usual, you're painting a grand and vivid picture, Michael, with this kind of stuff. I know your long-term price targets are sort of almost infinite. Let's talk shorter term, and let's assume that the Bitcoin reserve doesn't happen, right? Let's assume that conditions continue as they are. Where do you see Bitcoin at the end of 2025?
You know, I don't chart it month by month, but I noticed that it's been a 60% ARR for the past 4 years and even before that point. And my model is generally that it will grow at 60% ARR, decelerating to 20% ARR over 21 years. So if you start to crank in 60%, then 58, then 56, then 54, and you put that on a scale, absent the cyclical volatility, you get to a forecast which makes sense.
Michael, quick question on that cyclical volatility, right? Because typically Bitcoin does move in these 4-year cycles and there is a sharp pullback typically. Is that anywhere in sight? And what would be a potential catalyst for that?
I think as the asset grows and matures, the volatility decreases and those drawdown, the extremes of the drawdown decrease. The structure of the market determines the volatility. And so if you're going to forecast the structure of the market, you can't look backwards. It's like if you looked at a bicycle 4 years ago and I show up with a motorcycle right now, it's a different set of physics. The market right now is driven by the ETFs, driven by the options market, driven by companies like MicroStrategy, driven by the global adoption. So I think what you'll see is you will still see volatility, but you won't see the extreme drawdowns of the last cycle. You'll see a more gentle volatility. It'll surge up, it'll come back, but I don't expect we saw an 80% drawdown in the depth of the crypto winter from 66,000 to 16,000. In order for that to happen, you had to have a bunch of very poorly capitalized companies like FTX and Genesis and Celsius and BlockFi force liquidate. We don't have those kind of companies in the system now. The capital structures of the companies participating in the market today are much deeper, much more robust, and there's a lot more equity capital today. So you'll see a different dynamic. I think it'll be muted to the upside and the downside because of the options traders that are moderating the market.
Michael, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us, especially today on seeing this milestone of Bitcoin. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And there you have it, my friends. I really hope you enjoyed hearing the words from Michael Saylor. This guy is just dropping value bomb after value bomb. I'm never going to get tired of listening to him. I hope you don't either. I mean, he says new things every day, but oftentimes in the same way. The thesis is always the same. I will be buying Bitcoin at the top forever. He believes in Bitcoin. I hope you do too. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, give it a subscribe. It lets me know that you're watching, you're listening, you enjoy, because I'm going to keep bringing this content to you, this information, this intel, these updates every single day. We're talking Sunday. We're talking Saturday. I'm going to record an episode on Christmas Day. Don't believe me? Stick around and find out. And always remember, there is no second best.